G'day and welcome to another episode of Church and State. This week we're joined by McDonald Jr, our USA Political Correspondent. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Now, I'm particularly glad to have Kelly on because he's going to give us an American insight, an American locals insight on President Trump and all things political in America right now. And you've got a degree, double degree in political science and sociology.
Yes, I earned a bachelor's degree from Lambeth University in 2009 with a double concentration in political science and sociology, a double minor in psychology and legal studies.
Tell us about the man of the world, Times Man of the Year, Person of the Year, Donald Trump. What's he actually achieved for America that he said he would?
Absolutely. And it's true, he is the man of the year. He's the man of the hour, as we use that term in the United States, that phrase. Donald Trump has come under a tremendous amount of scrutiny as a president in the media who has done very little. But as we will go over today, he has accomplished many things.
What we see very often in the media in Australia is a focus on everything negative, and they're tiny little things. It's headline news when Donald Trump gets 2 scoops of ice cream. It's headline news when Melania pulls her hand away from his. These things are factual. It's not necessarily fake news, but the perspective that they present Donald Trump's administration with is very one-eyed.
Absolutely. That's the way it is in the United States. And it's an attempt by the left-wing media, which sometimes is called the drive-by media in America, to hide what really is going on, to hide the progress being made by Donald Trump. And I want you to understand, as I talk today about the Democratic Party, I'm going to have some very scolding comments for some of their leaders. And I have some very good friends of mine who happen to vote for the Democratic Party, and it's not necessarily a reflection of my views on that individuals that I know personally, but their leaders, I believe, are very much failing them, and we will point some of these things out today.
The leadership, from my observation internationally, seems to be adrift in the Democratic Party.
Yes, it's a very flaccid party right now, and the reason why is because they don't have a message. Their whole message is to hate Trump, to come against Trump.
Yeah.
And so it's almost as if they're trying to unite a party on the basis of a common enemy, rather than having some kind of platform for the United States.
It's not very visionary.
No, not at all. They don't have a platform that would drive political participation. This is why Hillary Clinton lost the election. Donald Trump was able to turn the anger of the average American into political action, which in this case was voting, showing up for rallies, showing up, going door to door, participating in the political process.
Okay.
You didn't see this as much with Hillary Clinton because her voter base, the people that she trusted the most to vote for her, really didn't show up in the end because she didn't motivate them. She didn't have a message that channeled how they felt into action.
Very good. So tell me some of the things that Donald's achieved.
I've got a list of about 10 to 12 items, and I could go on more things, but I've got 10 to 12 items that have been accomplished or in the process of being accomplished. And these are all items that he pledged within the first 100 days, and some of them within the first year to have major progress on. First of all, he promised on the campaign trail to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal. Now, this was a treaty with some of the Pacific nations in giving them preferential treatment in trade deals, etc. I mean, it was going to take away some American jobs, and he promised to axe the deal. And he did on January 23rd, only 2 days after taking office. He promised to approve the pipeline deal. There was a special pipeline that we call the Keystone Pipeline.
Was that to Canada?
Yes, it was from Canada all the way through the United States. Yeah. It was going to create tens of thousands of jobs. It was going to make energy more accessible for the country, and it was going to lower energy prices long term.
And Soros was against that. I mean, Obama was against that, wasn't he?
Freudian slip, my friend.
My bad.
Buckleyan slip, perhaps. But yes, Obama very much was against this deal, but on January 24th, 3 days after taking office, he signed an executive order permitting all of the construction necessary to allow this to be built. It's going to be very beneficial for America, very beneficial for Canada as well. If we keep going on down the list, I've got a list of all kinds of items they acted on. One of his campaign promises that really roused the left, and we're going to talk about this more later, was his pro-life platform.
That's true.
And that was, Trump has always been accused of being a flip-flopper on the abortion debate, but in his platform...
Rightly so.
But in his platform, which is when you're a voter, you look at the individual, but you also look at the platform because that's the promises that they are agreeing to follow through on.
Yep.
And in his platform, he was very much pro-life. And Pence, Mike Pence, who was his running mate, who's the vice president now, was very much known for his pro-life stance. And so
I was a big fan of their platform, but I guess from the Australian perspective, very concerned about his history. So I wasn't so sure how true he would be to his promises, because a politician breaking his election promises is not unheard of, unprecedented. And he had been a flip-flop. So I wasn't sure if his convictions on pro-life were politically expedient, which would have been very entrepreneurial of a billionaire, or if they were a new conviction. But you're saying he's delivered.
Absolutely. On January 23rd, he reinstated something called the Mexico City policy, which bans federal funds from going to non-government organizations or any other organizations that promote abortion or fund abortion. And so that was a major step. And
internationally, right?
Internationally.
Yeah.
Now, domestically, it's a little stickier there, but they're working on it. And one of the things he promised to do as a part of that pro-life agenda was to nominate a Supreme Court justice who is decidedly, firmly pro-life. And with Neil Gorsuch, we got just that.
We did, yeah.
And Republicans,
and that was probably. Even if not the pro-life issue, perhaps the Supreme Court appointment was something that I was perceiving as the major factor in something that conservatives were really wanting Hillary to not get in for, or any Democrat to not get in for, because those next Supreme Court appointments would be critical to the future of American culture and political landscape. And Donald Trump didn't let them down with Gorsuch.
No, not at all. You see, the Supreme Court before the nomination of Gorsuch was divided 4-4. You basically had 4 liberal, 4 conservative, essentially. And so the way that American law works, if the Supreme Court does not have an odd number of justices, so if they've deadlocked 4-4, the appellate ruling stands.
Right.
So the previous ruling. So it was huge to have that deadlock broken, but also to have a conservative make the deciding factor. But you have several older justices. It's believed he could have as many as 2 more appointed.
Yeah.
And even in a 4-year term, it's very possible he could have as many as, certainly in an 8-year, but in 2 years, he very well could have 2 more to appoint.
What other promises, just quickly?
Sure. When we look further, he had promised, for instance, to halt Muslim entry in the United States. And he began this also very quickly, January 27th. As you see a lot of January dates here very early on. This man did not waste time wanting to fulfill his promises to the American people. He identified 7 countries. These 7 countries were first identified in the Obama administration as being high activity for terrorism.
Yep.
And he banned the entry for 90 days. It's very important because a lot of the left was portraying it as a permanent ban when it was not. And unfortunately, though, a federal judge blocked that, and so he revised it, made it a little weaker. A federal judge also blocked that, but these are due to go to the Supreme Court at some point, the March revision of the original January ruling, and the Supreme Court will decide it. If I was to guess, I would say the Supreme Court's likely to uphold immigration's a big issue in America.
They're going to uphold the original judge's decision to overturn the ban?
they're going to uphold the president's original decision. That's what I believe I would project to happen.
Okay.
But we've been surprised, at times with the Supreme Court. It's definitely not something you can always predict. But if they vote according to the way they voted in the past, we could expect them to uphold the president's executive order.
Okay.
What's interesting, and what's interesting about the executive order, what's so fascinating is, 1979 we had the Iranian hostage crisis in America, in which 52 United States diplomats were held hostage for 444 days.
Wow.
Exactly. So not long after this hostage crisis began, Jimmy Carter, instituted, he invalidated all visas issued to Iranian citizens. And so there's kind of a similarity here between what Trump wanted to do in the national interest and what Carter was doing. And he made the ban permanent until later revoked. Now, he did later revoke the ban. Once the crisis was over, the ban was later lifted. But the point is, Trump being a new president, being new to being in politics, period, wanted to get a better handle on our border security. And the best way in his view to do that was to ban immigration for a short period of time. Better beef it up, better scrutinize what it looks like, and then let immigration continue. Typically,
the Liberals are being incredibly hypocritical with this because Obama listed those countries first. Carter had the precedent of doing it for national security. And it's not a Muslim ban. They've rephrased the actual reality with pejorative language to try and make it sound some kind of bigotry against Muslims. When it's a very practical security concern. But worse than that, if you hold a Jewish passport, there's 6, 9, a dozen different countries that you cannot travel to because it's a permanent ban on Jews.
Absolutely.
We don't hear the left complaining or screaming for equal rights for Jews at all. So they're terribly inconsistent about that. Listen, in the next segment, let's talk about the Liberal Democrat left's campaign to have Trump impeached.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching. If you really enjoyed that video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Have a look at this great video next and check out the website for even more interesting articles and episodes later.